There are moments in life that arrive without warning. They don't knock politely or wait for us to be ready. They simply appear, often disguised as an ordinary day, an ordinary thought, or an ordinary feeling. Yet beneath that ordinary surface lies something extraordinary, a message capable of changing the direction of an entire life. Most people spend years waiting for dramatic signs, believing that transformation must arrive with thunder and lightning. But the deepest truths rarely announce themselves with noise. They come quietly, almost like a whisper that asks only one thing: will you listen? Imagine receiving a message from the one person who has occupied your thoughts more than you admit. Perhaps you've convinced yourself that chapter is over. Perhaps you've buried old emotions beneath responsibilities, routines, and distractions. Yet the human heart has a remarkable memory. It remembers what the mind tries to forget. It stores unfinished conversations, unspoken apologies, unanswered questions, and silent hopes. When a message finally arrives, it doesn't simply bring words. It awakens everything that was waiting beneath the surface. But before you rush to think this is only about another person, consider something deeper. Every meaningful encounter in your life reflects a hidden part of yourself. The people who move you the most often awaken qualities you have ignored, fears you have avoided, or strengths you never realized existed. Sometimes the message you believe is coming from someone else is also coming from the deepest part of your own soul. It is calling you back to honesty. It is inviting you to stop pretending that you are unaffected by what has shaped you. Many people fear unexpected messages because they threaten the stories they have carefully built. We tell ourselves, I've moved on. We say, it doesn't matter anymore. We insist that time has erased what once felt important. Yet one sentence, one memory, or one unexpected reminder can expose how fragile those stories truly are. This is not weakness. It is evidence that something within you is still alive, still searching, still longing for understanding rather than escape. The greatest mistake is assuming that urgency always demands immediate action. Sometimes urgency demands immediate awareness. Before you respond with your hands, you must first respond with your consciousness. Ask yourself why these words affect you. Why does your heart beat faster? Why does your mind suddenly become quiet? Every emotional reaction carries a hidden lesson. If you ignore it, you repeat old patterns. If you face it, you begin to transform. Perhaps this message is asking for forgiveness. Perhaps it is asking you to release resentment. Perhaps it is reminding you that love without truth cannot survive, and truth without courage remains forever unspoken. Whatever its form, it arrives for a reason. Life rarely interrupts your journey without offering an opportunity to become someone wiser than you were yesterday. So before you dismiss what has arrived, pause, listen beyond the words, hear what your heart has been trying to tell you for far longer than you realize. Because the message you never expected may be the one that finally introduces you to the person you were always meant to become. And once you truly hear it, nothing inside you will ever be the same again. Once you have allowed yourself to hear the unexpected message, another realization begins to unfold. You start to understand that this was never the first attempt. Long before these words reach your awareness, something had already been trying to reach your heart. The question is not whether the message existed. The question is how many times you overlooked it because it arrived in a language you had forgotten how to understand. Human beings often believe that communication happens only through spoken words. We wait for a phone call, a letter, or a conversation, convinced that truth must be delivered in a form we can immediately recognize. Yet the deepest parts of life rarely speak that way. They reveal themselves through symbols, recurring thoughts, dreams that refuse to disappear, unexpected memories, familiar songs at precisely the right moment, and encounters that seem too meaningful to dismiss as coincidence. What appears random to the distracted mind often carries profound meaning for the attentive soul. Think about those moments when someone's name suddenly enters your thoughts without explanation. You may be busy with work, surrounded by people, completely focused on something else, and yet their presence quietly emerges within you. Most people dismiss this as imagination. But what if it is something more? What if your inner world is trying to complete a conversation your conscious mind keeps postponing? The psyche has its own wisdom. It does not shout. It waits patiently until you become still enough to hear it. This is why silence can feel uncomfortable. In silence, there are no distractions to protect you from yourself. The emotions you buried begin to rise. The questions you avoided quietly return. The truth that once seemed distant suddenly stands before you. Many people rush to fill every empty moment with noise because they fear what silence may reveal. Yet within that silence lives the voice capable of leading you toward wholeness. Sometimes the person you believe has been trying to reach you is no longer physically present in your life. Perhaps distance separated you. Perhaps circumstances changed. Perhaps the relationship itself ended. Even then, the influence of that connection continues to shape you. Every meaningful relationship leaves an imprint upon the soul. Until that imprint is understood, accepted, and integrated, it continues speaking through your experiences. You may meet new people, travel to new places, and build an entirely different life, but unresolved truths have an extraordinary way of finding new paths back into your awareness. Do not mistake this for fate controlling your future. It is something far more intimate. It is your own unconscious inviting you to become complete. Every recurring lesson, every familiar emotional pattern, every repeated disappointment asks the same question. Have you learned what life has been trying to teach you? If the answer is no, the lesson returns, not as punishment but as compassion. Life repeats itself because it refuses to give up on your growth. So when your heart begins to stir without explanation, resist the temptation to silence it. Instead, become curious. Listen carefully. There is wisdom hidden beneath every emotion, every memory, and every unexpected feeling. The message has been searching for you far longer than you have been searching for it, and the moment you finally recognize its voice, you stop chasing answers and begin discovering the truth that has always been waiting within you. Now that you have begun to recognize the signs and understand that your heart has been receiving this message for far longer than you realized, you are ready to hear what truly matters. Strip away the noise, the assumptions, and the stories your mind has created. Beneath them lies something remarkably simple. The message is not asking you to become someone else. It is asking you to become honest. The greatest distance between two people is rarely measured in miles. It is measured in the truths that remain unspoken. We often imagine that silence protects us. We believe that if we do not reveal our fears, our regrets, or our longing, we can avoid pain. Yet silence has its own consequences. It slowly builds invisible walls until even those who care deeply for one another begin to feel like strangers. The words left unsaid do not disappear. They settle into the unconscious, where they continue shaping thoughts, emotions, and decisions without our awareness. If this person could stand before you without fear, without pride, and without the need to appear strong, perhaps their message would sound something like this. I wanted to be understood more than I wanted to be right. I wanted connection more than victory. I wanted honesty more than perfection. These are not extraordinary desires. They are among the deepest needs shared by every human being. Beneath every conflict is often a longing to be seen. Beneath every argument, a fear of being abandoned. And beneath every defensive reaction, a wound that has never fully healed. But this message is not only about them. It is equally about you. Ask yourself how many times you have hidden your authentic feelings because you feared rejection. How often have you smiled while carrying disappointment? How many opportunities for genuine connection were lost because both hearts waited for the other to speak first? Pride often disguises itself as strength, but true strength is the willingness to risk vulnerability in the service of truth. There is another layer to this message that is even more important. It asks you not to confuse the image of a person with the reality of who they are. We all create inner pictures of those we love. We imagine their intentions, assign meanings to their actions, and fill the gaps in our understanding with assumptions. Over time, we stop relating to the real person and begin relating to the version we have constructed in our own minds. Many relationships suffer not because love disappears, but because illusion replaces reality. The invitation before you is to let those illusions dissolve. See yourself clearly. See the other person clearly. Allow compassion to replace judgment. Allow curiosity to replace certainty. When you do this, something remarkable happens. Conversations become healing instead of defensive. Listening becomes more valuable than winning. Understanding becomes more powerful than being correct. Perhaps the message you have been waiting for has never demanded perfect answers. Perhaps it has only been asking for an open heart willing to meet another soul without masks, expectations, or fear. That kind of meeting transforms not only relationships, but the person you become. Remember this always. The words that change your life are rarely the loudest. They are the ones that awaken the courage to live truthfully. Because the moment you choose honesty over illusion, you free both yourself and everyone you truly love. Once truth begins to emerge, another obstacle quietly reveals itself. It is not the absence of love nor the lack of opportunity. It is pride. Pride is one of the most convincing disguises the human mind can wear because it often presents itself as dignity, self-respect, or strength. Yet beneath that mask, there is frequently something far more fragile. A fear of being hurt, a fear of being misunderstood, or perhaps the deepest fear of all, the fear of being seen exactly as we are. Many lives are divided not by great tragedies, but by small moments when two people waited for the other to make the first move. One waited for an apology, the other waited for understanding. One expected a message, the other expected a sign. Days became months, months became years, and eventually silence hardened into what appeared to be fate. But fate is not always responsible for separation. Very often it is the quiet persistence of pride. Consider how easily the ego creates stories that protect its image. It whispers, if they truly cared, they would come first. It insists, you have already done enough. It reminds you of every disappointment while encouraging you to forget every act of kindness. The ego is selective in its memory because its purpose is not truth. Its purpose is self-preservation. Yet a life built only on self-preservation eventually becomes a prison, where no relationship can breathe freely and no love can fully mature. The tragedy is that pride rarely announces itself. It hides within reasonable arguments. It disguises itself as logic. It tells you that waiting is wisdom, when in reality, waiting is only another form of avoidance. There is a profound difference between protecting your peace and protecting your ego. One allows your heart to remain open while respecting your worth. The other closes every door before healing has the chance to enter. Think about the moments you regret most. They are rarely the times when you spoke with sincerity. More often, they are the moments when fear convinced you to remain silent. The conversation you postponed, the forgiveness you withheld, the gratitude you never expressed, the embrace you believed could wait until tomorrow. Time has a way of revealing that many of our strongest defenses were guarding nothing but loneliness. This does not mean abandoning wisdom or ignoring healthy boundaries. It means recognizing that vulnerability is not the opposite of strength. It is the doorway through which genuine strength enters. To admit that you miss someone, to acknowledge your mistakes, or to speak honestly without knowing how your words will be received requires far more courage than maintaining a perfect image. The strongest soul is not the one that never bends, but the one that chooses truth even when the outcome cannot be controlled. If this message has found you today, perhaps it is inviting you to examine not only what you are holding on to, but why you are holding on to it. Is your silence protecting your heart, or is it protecting an identity that no longer serves your growth? Are you defending your peace, or are you defending a version of yourself that is afraid to love without guarantees? Life has an extraordinary way of humbling every illusion. In the end, titles fade, victories lose their shine, and arguments are forgotten. But the moments when you chose love over pride become the memories that define your character. Never allow your ego to write the final chapter of a story your heart still has the courage to finish. Because the greatest loss is not being rejected. It is discovering too late that pride stole what mattered most. If you have followed this journey with an open mind, you may begin to sense that everything leading to this moment has been preparing you for a single decision. Not a decision born from impulse or emotion, but one grounded in awareness. There comes a point in every life when the patterns that once defined us no longer have the power to control us. That point rarely announces itself with certainty. It arrives quietly, disguised as an ordinary choice that carries extraordinary consequences. This could be that moment. Most people believe that transformation happens all at once, as though a single event suddenly creates a new person. Yet real transformation is far more subtle. It begins when you respond differently to a familiar situation. The circumstances may look the same, the people may be the same, even the emotions may feel painfully familiar. But something within you has changed. Instead of reacting from fear, you choose understanding. Instead of defending your image, you seek the truth. Instead of allowing old wounds to dictate your future, you refuse to let yesterday become the architect of tomorrow. Notice how often life presents the same lesson in different forms. Different faces, different places, different conversations, and yet the emotional experience remains strangely familiar. This is not because life lacks imagination. It is because the unconscious repeats what the conscious has not yet understood. Every recurring conflict is an invitation. Every repeated disappointment asks you to look inward before looking outward. The world is often reflecting back the parts of yourself that still long to be recognized. This realization changes everything. You stop asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this experience trying to teach me?" That single shift transforms suffering into wisdom. It turns frustration into curiosity. Suddenly you are no longer a victim of circumstance, but an active participant in your own growth. The power you once believed belonged to other people slowly returns to where it has always belonged, within you. Perhaps this is also the moment when you understand that forgiveness is not about rewriting the past. It is about refusing to let the past imprison the future. Forgiveness does not always mean reconciliation. It does not require forgetting what happened or pretending that pain never existed. It means releasing the invisible chains that bind your present to an experience that has already passed. When you forgive, you do not erase history, you reclaim your freedom. And if this message truly comes from someone who has mattered deeply in your life, then let your response emerge from your highest self, rather than your oldest wound. Speak with honesty instead of accusation. Listen with compassion instead of suspicion. Allow your actions to reflect the person you are becoming, not merely the person you have been. Even if the outcome is uncertain, your integrity will no longer depend upon another person's choices. Understand that every turning point demands courage, because it asks you to leave behind an identity that once felt safe. The familiar, even when painful, often feels more comfortable than the unknown. Yet growth has always required stepping beyond the boundaries of what is familiar. You cannot discover a deeper life while clinging to an outdated version of yourself. So if your heart tells you that this moment is different, trust that quiet knowing. Do not rush, but do not hesitate out of fear. The future is not created by the opportunities you wait for. It is created by the conscious choices you make when life places truth directly before you. because one courageous decision made in complete awareness can alter the direction of your entire life forever. And now you arrive at the place where every meaningful journey eventually leads not to another sign, not to another message, and not to another person, but to yourself. Everything that has unfolded until this moment has been preparing you for a decision that no one else can make on your behalf. Advice can guide you, experience can shape you, love can encourage you. But the final step always belongs to you. This is where your future quietly waits for your answer. It is tempting to believe that life is determined by grand events beyond our control. We point to chance, timing, or the choices of others as though they alone write the story of our lives. Yet if you observe closely, you will notice that the greatest turning points often emerge from the smallest acts of courage. A single conversation honestly spoken, a sincere apology offered without conditions, a willingness to forgive, a decision to stop running from your own heart. These moments appear ordinary from the outside, but inwardly they reshape the landscape of the soul. Perhaps the message you have received has stirred emotions you believed were long forgotten. Perhaps it has awakened hope, uncertainty, regret, or even fear. Do not reject these emotions simply because they are uncomfortable. Every feeling has something to teach when it is approached with awareness rather than judgment. Emotions become dangerous only when they control us unconsciously. When we observe them honestly, they become guides instead of masters. Ask yourself a question that requires absolute sincerity. If fear were removed from this moment, what would your heart choose? Not the heart driven by impulse or fantasy, but the deeper heart that seeks truth, growth, and wholeness. For many people, the answer appears almost immediately. It has been waiting beneath layers of doubt all along. The difficulty has never been discovering the truth. The difficulty has been finding the courage to live according to it. There is a quiet freedom that comes when you stop expecting certainty before taking action. Human beings often postpone important decisions because they want guarantees. They want to know that they will not be rejected, misunderstood, or disappointed. But life has never promised certainty. It offers only possibility. The person who waits until every risk disappears often discovers that the opportunity has disappeared first. Remember also that choosing does not always mean holding on. Sometimes the bravest decision is to release what no longer allows either soul to grow. Love is not measured only by closeness. It is also measured by wisdom. There are moments when reaching out is the right path, and there are moments when letting go with compassion is the deeper expression of love. Both require immense courage because both demand that you act from consciousness rather than attachment. Whatever you choose, let it be a decision that leaves you more authentic than you were yesterday. Do not choose because of guilt. Do not choose because of loneliness. Do not choose because others expect it. Choose because your actions reflect the deepest values you wish to embody. When your inner world and your outer actions become aligned, a profound peace begins to emerge. It is the peace that comes from no longer living in conflict with yourself. One day, you will look back on this moment and realize that the message was never merely asking for a reply. It was inviting you to awaken. The voice you were waiting to hear was also the voice within you, patiently calling you toward a life of greater truth, deeper courage, and genuine wholeness. Answer that call with an open heart, because the most important decision you will ever make is not whether someone else chooses you. It is whether you choose to become the fullest expression of who you were created to be.